Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hammer Museum. I'm Claudia Bester. I'm the Director of Public Programs here, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to Intersections, an evening of exquisite music by Armenian composers from both the Western and Ottoman classical music traditions. Tonight's concert commemorates the Armenian genocide, in which an estimated 1.5 million Armenian people were killed between 1915 and 1923 in a horrific act of ethnic cleansing. The victims of the Armenian genocide are commemorated every year on April 24th. And as an arts institution, we feel that it's appropriate and important to take this time to celebrate the contributions of Armenian culture to the arts, especially here in Los Angeles, home to one of the largest groups of Armenian people outside of Armenia. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Melissa Bilal. Dr. Bilal wears many hats. She's an assistant professor in the UCLA Herb Alpert School of Music, and she's the Promise Chair in Armenian Music, Arts, and Culture. And she is also the director of the UCLA Armenian Music Program. Dr. Bilal is a socio-cultural anthropologist and historian specializing in music and performance studies, and she researches the role of music in the transmission of Armenian memory in Turkey, as well as the musical and intellectual history of Armenians in the late Ottoman Empire and early Republican Turkey. And she organized tonight's beautiful program for you, for which we are very grateful. Before I turn things over to her, I want to remind you to please silence your cell phones. And please don't videotape during the performance because it's very distracting for the other audience members. We are videotaping tonight's performance, and we'll have it up on our website by tomorrow, so you can share it with your friends and colleagues. So now please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Melissa Bilal.
Thank you, Claudia. Բարի երեկո սիրելի ներկաներ, հայոց ցեղասպանության 109-ամյակին ողջագոչման նվիրված այս համերգին բարի եկաք. Good evening, dear guests, and welcome to this concert, which we, UCLA Armenian Music Program, put together to remember the Armenian genocide with you tonight. As a director of the Armenian Music Program, I would like to thank the Hammer Museum team for their collaboration and hospitality, to Herb Alpert School of Music, to Promise Armenian Institute, to my colleagues in the Armenian Music Program, to our musicians, and to everyone who labored to make tonight's program possible. Many thanks to you for being here. Our concert has two parts. First, you will hear the UCLA VEM Ensemble, which is our resident ensemble under the directorship of Moses Bogosyan, distinguished professor of violin, and the founder and advisor of the UCLA Armenian Music Program. This year, the VEM Ensemble welcomes a new member, violinist Ali Cho, along with its continuing members, violist Damon Zavala and cellist Niall Taro Ferguson. The first set will open with Dikran Mansuryan's expressive and powerful work, Testament, composed in 2005. It will be followed by a string quartet by Koharik Ghazarosyan, based on the theme of a folk song transcribed by Gomidas Vartabed. This piece is now in essential AMP repertoire because it reflects our commitment to research creation. That is, researching musical repertoires preserved in the archives and bringing them back to life by performing and recording them. Koharik Ghazarosyan was a Constantinople-born, Paris-educated concert pianist and composer who toured the world and appeared on many major stages, including the Carnegie Hall. Although she was one of the first women composers of Turkey, for decades, due to the systematic erasure of Armenian past in Turkey and the denial of the genocide, her name was silenced from the list of the first women composers of Turkey that often listed other women who came after Koharik Ghazarosyan as the first. As my research on Ghazarosyan continues, as the AMP, we are planning to perform and record more of Koharik Ghazarosyan's music. Tonight, Dikran Mansuryan and Koharik Ghazarosyan pieces will be performed one after another without interruption. They will be followed by Gomidas Vartabet's folk song arrangements arranged for strings by Sergei Aslamazyan. In between 4 Gomidas pieces, you will hear 3 lullabies, beautifully arranged for string quartet by Niall Taro Ferguson. As an ethnomusicologist who wrote her dissertation on Armenian lullabies, I can talk about these songs for hours, but for the sake of time, I will try to summarize them in 2 minutes. The 2 lullabies from Bardizak were collected by Mihran Tumajan from Mariam Minasyan and Azniv Bodosyan, 2 genocide survivors. We remember today these 2 genocide survivors through their songs. They sang these songs, these lullaby laments, to Miran Tumajan in exile, far away from their homeland of Bardizak, that is in New York City in 1930s, and Miran Tumajan recorded them down. Singer, conductor, folklore collector, and scholar Tumajan was one of Gomidas Vartabet's 5 students. And if you have been following our programs, you might remember that I gave a lecture on Miran Tumajan during the AMP Day of Armenian Music in 2021. As the Armenian Music Program at UCLA, we are closely collaborating with the Tumajan family and hoping to bring more of Miran Tumajan's life and work into public visibility with our projects in the near future. The 3rd lullaby you will hear today is Neni Bala, Sleep My Child, by Krikor Mirzayan Suni, an Armenian composer who was born in Kedapek, in eastern Armenia, then a part of the Ottoman Empire, Russian Empire, and today in Azerbaijan. Krikor Suni spent his childhood in Shushi, Artsakh, where he returned after his studies at the St. Petersburg Conservatory of Music and worked as a choral conductor and music teacher in Shushi for years. Suni also lived in the Ottoman Empire, taught at Garin's Erzurum's Sanasaryan School, collected and recorded down the gems of Western Armenian musical heritage from towns and cities in Northern and Eastern Ottoman Empire, where actually Gomidas Vartabet had never been to, and where the native Armenian communal life was destroyed with the genocide. Now I invite the WEM Ensemble to stage.
Thank you very much, and greetings. We are very glad to be back at these concerts, and I'm so glad to be together on this stage with my young colleagues from the VEM String Quartet, which for last 11 years has been the resident ensemble of the UCLA Armenian music program. As my colleague and now boss, Melissa Bilal, told you this a little already about the program, there's some wonderful music that expects you during the evening today. And I will be speaking a little bit later, again, a little at more length. But first, I wanted just to quickly introduce you each member of the ensemble. So to my left is Ali Cho. Ali, can you say a couple of words? Where you're from? And
hi, I'm Ali. I'm from Melbourne, Australia, and I'm really happy to be here today.
Ali is a first-year master's student at UCLA. Oh, and she's playing, by the way. Tell us what you're playing.
I'm playing on the Stradivarius, Duke of Alcantara.
And then we have here Damon.
Hello, everyone. My name is Damon Zavala. I am originally from the Portland, Oregon area, and I am currently a second-year master's student at UCLA.
Hi, everyone. I'm Niall. I'm from Santa Monica, and I graduated so long ago that I don't even remember what year it was when I did.
A little later, Niall and I will have a chat, and so hopefully we'll talk about your time in Armenia during the recent VEM tour. But now let's go back to music. I was just thinking the program is really as often, and it celebrates the great Komitas, the father of Armenian musical tradition, but in variety of ways. The Mansourian piece with which we opened clearly is an indirect spiritual homage to great Komitas Vartapet. And then there's this amazing story about Gohari Gazarosyan being in a possession of priceless manuscripts, handwritten Komitas, by Komitas handwriting, his notebooks. So what you heard now, the melody, is directly from Komitas through Gohari Gazarosyan. Now we go to Komitas himself, and you will hear two beautiful arrangements by Sarkis Aslamazyan. These last two works were, of course, written on original Komitas songs that he collected, but they were arranged for string quartet by cellist Sarkis Aslamazyan, who was one of the founding members of the Komitas quartet that was formed in Moscow in, I believe, late 30s or early 40s, something around that time. Yeah, everyone loves those arrangements. But what you're going to hear today, in addition to these arrangements, it's something that no one ever heard before, which is 3 brand new string quartet arrangements. And the author of these arrangements is right here next to us, and is playing them, actually. And I think you're going to really like them. I know Niall since he was a freshman at UCLA. Coached him in a Beethoven quartet. Now I get to play Armenian music with him in a string quartet. And another, to me, very touching fact is that I don't know how many of you were here last year when Melissa was introducing her amazing research on prisoners of World War I, and they were singing those amazing archival recordings. You know, this... and there's a lot of lullabies there. These are all lullabies, and they're collected by some of the Komitas' pupils. For example, the 2 of them are collected by Miran Tumajan. And one of the missions of Armenian music program is, also paying homage and researching into the beautiful wealth of Armenian collected heritage that we owe to Tumajan, and Grigor Syuni is the other composer. So, but the idea was, I asked Melissa, can you please pick up a few beautiful melodies, and can we pass them to Niall, so Niall can make his, imprint. And so the next thing is Niall has created this arrangement. So I would like to ask Niall, as a composer and as a cellist, what's the process like, Niall? What's happening when you receive orders of that nature?
I'd like to start by saying this is a very intimidating audience to present these works in front of for a number of reasons, so be kind. The process is, well, I think one of the interesting challenges of working with material like this is that what we have are, like a notation that was written down by somebody based on something that probably was never really meant to fit into this notation. So there's a couple layers of translation that we're having to work through. I think in light of that, it becomes a lower priority to focus on things like that and instead kind of focus more on the storytelling aspect of the material. Fortunately, all 3 of these melodies have text that comes with them, and text obviously does a pretty good job of telling stories. So that was probably what I leaned on the most in terms of trying to figure out what to do with these arrangements. It's not always necessarily clear harmonically what to do when you just have a single line in sort of in like a less Western familiar modality. So I kind of had to make a few tweaks in order to make it fit into the scale that I was using. But that's sort of where the groundwork starts, is just trying to figure out what the tune is actually about, and then just seeing where my imagination takes me.
Niall is being a bit too humble and modest, but I was just listening to him thinking, it's always also represents the arranger. Actually, it has its own creative work. I would say actually you are the composer of this. As we listen to Sarkis Aslamazyan, we almost can feel and smell the era, harmonically, also historically. And here, this is work by a modern composer of a mixed heritage, Japanese and Irish, living in Los Angeles, working in a variety of exciting freelancing opportunities, including film industry. But it's amazing to me as a musician who heard so many arrangements and so many kinds of music. What a special, unique world you're creating, Niall. So congratulations in advance before this premiere, and I hope we will congratulate him after hearing the three. Let's listen to all three without applause. Yeah, you will hear three distinct, beautiful arrangements, and then let's give Niall due. Enjoy.
One more time. Please, one more time.
Շնորհակալություն Vem Larain Karyagin. Thank you, Vem Ensemble, Vem String Quartet. So, Armenian Music Program's WEM Fellowship for the Study and the Performance of Armenian Music is a continuously expanding and enriching fellowship program which reflects our determination to creating a diverse and inclusive community around our program who shares Armenian music and dance with each other and with others. Along with the WEM Ensemble, this year we have 10 other WEM Fellows who have been studying Armenian folk singing with renowned singer Hasmi Karutyunyan, Kamancha with celebrated Varbet master Vartan Bagdasaryan, Duduk with critically acclaimed Emmanuel Hovannesyan, Shuvi with Armen Adamyan, ethnomusicology PhD candidate at UCLA and my advisee, and the oud with tonight's second set special guest Antranik Kazarian. This year, as the Armenian Music Program, we also offered a new course titled Armenian Woodwinds, Duduk and Shuvi, for the first time at UCLA, and to my knowledge, for the first time at any university outside Armenia. This Armenian Music Program funded course was designed and has been taught by Armen in winter and spring terms. It has quickly become one of the most popular courses on campus with capacity enrollment and returning enrollees. Along with this new course, this year we are also offering beginner Armenian dance in collaboration with the Department of World Arts and Cultures Dance. And this course, designed and taught by Natali Kamajian, UCLA PhD student in dance, another advisee I have the honor of having as a dissertation committee member. This course by Natali is equally popular, and this week I got the exciting news that her department, acknowledging her success, invited her to teach this course again in the summer. Along with our new courses added to UCLA curriculum, with our fellowship programs, with our outreach events, and our public concerts and lectures, we are committed to turn UCLA into a vibrant scene of Armenian music and dance. Let me take this opportunity to invite you all to our upcoming mini festival on June 1st, which includes a concert of AMP WEM Fellows with their mentors, a poetry reading and writing workshop, and a screening of Oscar-winning documentary Last Repair Shop. Reflecting our efforts to combine our scholarly and artistic strengths, our concert program tonight, as last year, highlights the intersections in Armenian music. It showcases the stylistic diversity and richness Armenian musical heritage includes. If I'm not mistaken, this concert is the first experiment of bringing two classical repertoires together, at least in our times. Because for a long time in history, these different musical traditions, Western classical and Ottoman classical, sounded together. These different musical traditions, genres, forms, and styles, they cohabited. As much as a music scholar, my job is to critically approach the term classical, I still thought it was important to use this term in the title of this concert in order to highlight the fact that along with the European or Western classical tradition, we have other musical traditions, other musical repertoires in the world that have been long called as art music, concert music, classical music. And Armenians have long been composers, performers, teachers, and instrument makers in more than one classical tradition. In this set, you will hear instrumental suites, saz semais, which are the most classical forms in Ottoman art music. And when you listen to their structure, please pay attention to the similarities between other classical forms. We will also hear longas and sirtos, which are classical genres in Ottoman art music based on folk repertoires, much like many Western classical genres. These works also include taksims, improvisations, and they are by two Ottoman Armenian composers, Kemani Tatyos Efendi Ekserciyan and Kemani Sebuh Efendi Simonian, both violinists and composers, both from my own hometown, Constantinople, Bolis, Istanbul. They were subjects of the Ottoman Empire and took active part in the making of the Ottoman classical and urban popular music repertoire, which today is incorrectly named as Turkish music or Turkish art music. Despite its multi-ethnic, multi-religious beginnings and its repeatedly performed popular repertoires created by non-Turkish composers, including Armenians. And as I said, tonight we have a very special guest, Antranik Kızıryan on the oud, who has been playing the instrument since he was very young in a community made up of generations of Western Armenian immigrants. And he excelled in the Armenian oud tradition that he inherited from older generation masters. Antranik's innovative idea was to play this Ottoman classical repertoire on the oud with the duduk. As you may guess, duduk is not a common instrument in this repertoire, but he said, why not? This is a good way of reclaiming this repertoire as Armenian. And I know the best master, best dudukahar who can play this repertoire, which is not the standard repertoire for a duduk player. So he brought the critically acclaimed dudukahar and classically trained clarinetist Mıher Mınatsaganyan on board. So you will realize that now Mıher can navigate between Armenian folk, Western classical, and the Ottoman classical. It is my honor to introduce Antranik Kızıryan and Mıher Mınatsaganyan to the stage.
Thank you, Melissa, for the kind words. So I had some remarks prepared, but Melissa kind of covered most of it. To kind of start, we had a conversation about this concert, and the main thought was, well, what could we do? What are the different ideas? And in my recollection, there hasn't been a concert that featured this kind of music. The compositions of Armenian composers from the Ottoman era. There's a tremendous wealth of composers from that genre. Many Armenians aren't even aware that they ever existed. And as Melissa noted, just because of where I grew up and how I grew up, we were able to have the good fortune of exposure to this kind of music. And growing up, hearing oud players from when I was a small boy in Philadelphia and on the East Coast, they would play folk music, which kind of became kef, as you would call it, for parties and weddings, etc. But every once in a while, I would notice if I would meet with the older generation musicians, they would play something that didn't seem to be folk, or it seemed to be more classical or more sophisticated. And as I was curious about that, I would ask them, well, what is this that you're playing? It sounds so different. It sounds like a variant of classical music. And they would say, Doras, in Armenian. This is Tatyos Efendi, or this is Kemani Sebu. These are the pieces that our grandfathers and grandparents and grandmothers, they would bring with them when they came as genocide survivors. as it was part of one piece of the type of music that they brought with them. So growing up, I became fascinated by this music, and I always wondered, well, why didn't Armenians even know who these composers were? And as you kind of experience things and grow older, you realize historical trauma is a serious thing, and a lot of our history, not just the music, is kind of blocked out because it was too difficult and too hurtful to face. So as time has passed, and I've had the good fortune of working with mentors like John Berberian and Ara Dinkjan and others, Richard Hagopian, etc., I feel like it's time to bring these composers into focus again. We have a rich history to be proud of. These men were considered Mozarts of their era in that context, in that world. And in their music, you can hear traces and influences, little fragments and melodic phrases that remind me, when I hear them, of Armenian church music or Armenian folk music. So as they were living in complex times themselves, they found a way to weave in the elements of their ethnicity and their culture into the music that they composed. And these composers, their music is played all over the world today by ensembles, orchestras, symphonies all over the Middle East, Eastern Europe, Africa. So I feel like it's time for Armenians to hear their own composers. It's ironic, but it's something that's very important to me. And recently, about a year or so ago, I was introduced to Meher Manatsakanyan, a tremendous musician. One of my friends back home had said he was moving to Los Angeles. So we connected, and we did a couple things together. And then when this came up, there's sheet music for this music. It does consist of modal elements such as microtones, notes that are not on the piano, so to speak. And we worked on it together, and I'm proud to say that we have an oud accompanied by duduk. It might be the first time, I'm not sure, but I think so, doing this kind of music, which is fascinating and innovative and so interesting to me.
I really believe it's first time.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, at least I have never done it before.
Yeah, and I'm so excited for you all to hear Meher playing this music. And to me, as the duduk symbolizes the breath, kind of like the Armenian soul, and the oud strings are almost like the fabric of Armenian identity, I feel like working in partnership together is very special. So I hope you'll enjoy our very brief presentation of these compositions, and we'll get started. As you can see, we play some pretty old, fragile instruments, so sometimes we have to check the tuning. So what do you guys think so far? Yeah, it's very special to share this music. We don't really get to play these songs. So I'm glad to share this all with you, especially with a duduk player like Maher. Please.
Based on the musical experience I have in my musical career, it's quite big to be modest to say that. But I would like to thank you, Andronicjan, for giving me this opportunity to play this very special music for me. As I was saying, when I was practicing this music, I was getting a goosebump. That's talking about something. So, and it's like going to your ancestors, to your roots. And we don't play this in Armenia. And I really appreciate the thought that you had in your head to be giving me this opportunity to play. And I hope you guys like it.
Thanks, Maher.
And just
Since we covered those first two, so the first piece we played was by Tatios Efendi, Husseini Sasemai. It's one of his top 2 or 3 most famous pieces. And the second piece was by his teacher, Kemani Sebu, Asirto, kind of like a Greek sound a little bit. And we're going to continue with Tatios now.
Oh
Thank you. That was in the Rast makam, which is very similar to a major scale in Western music. But one of the things you'll hear in these sasemais is the modulational aspect. They start with a certain mode, and then they move into other sounds. You hear it, right? And then there's a repeated refrain, a chorus that we always come back to. That's essentially kind of the arrangement of these pieces. And they show the exploration, the sophistication of the composers of that time. The next one we're going to do as we move towards the end of the program is my personal favorite. I think it became yours too.
It's the one that I had the most goosebumps, actually.
Exactly. There's a goosebump meter. and on that one, the next one was pretty high for Mohed. And it was, it's just another great example of how the modes are used. And again, how there's an Armenian influence in certain parts of the song that is unmistakable. Thank you very much. Our final piece we're going to do is from Kemani Sebu. Yes, another one of Maher's favorites. It's kind of up-tempo, so I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Given the occasion, we also prepared a very small little extra finale, which we're going to share with you as well. You might recognize some of these.
So I don't need the score for this. So
Thank you. Maher, Manat Kanyan, thanks for being with us tonight. It's a special night. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.